Hello, Prego Expo. Hi, welcome baby wearers and future baby wearers. I'm Amy. I'm a baby wearing educator here today to talk about baby Tula carriers. So we're going to be talking about carriers, ring slings. So let me know, have you ever worn a baby before? If not, you're in the right place. If so, I'd love to know just like what carriers have you used? Have you used a Tula carrier before? We're going to talk about our free to grow carrier today, our Explore carrier, and our ring sling. I really wanted to focus on newborn types of carriers. Hi, hello. Be sure to say hello in the comments. And if you have questions as we go, my main goal for this session for us here today is for obviously you to learn about the Tula products and what they have to offer you, but also so that you get your questions answered about baby wearing, regardless of what kind of carrier you end up with. All of us baby wearing educators, all of us at these companies want to make sure that you are comfortable and that you feel good about using your carrier. So if you have questions, let them know. First timer, awesome. First timer, oh good. Yeah, lots of first timers, which makes me so very happy to welcome you to baby wearing. And hopefully you've checked out the other baby wearing segments at the expo too. Ergo Baby had one the other day. My friend Christy was leading that one. I know there's other companies here too that highlight carriers. I'm going to start talking today about our Tula Explore carrier. So I'm holding up here. This is the Sleepy Dust print, I believe that's correct. This carrier is unique because it does not require an infant insert, no extra pieces to buy in order to fit your newborns. It goes all the way down to 7 pounds and all the way up to 45 pounds. So this could be a true newborn to toddler, one and done kind of carrier. The cool thing about Tula carriers is not only this is just one of the standard basic prints. There are so many different prints, but they're quick and easy to put on. Let me show you with a quick demo just how easy and quick they are, and then we'll go over some of the features and take our time with it a little bit more. So I'm going to take this padded waist belt and put it on. I like to put it on backward because there is a little safety loop of elastic. Hopefully you can see that here. Yeah, gender neutral fabrics. Plus they have, just so many different prints. I'm going to buckle at my waist, bring this around, tighten it up a bit so it's nice and snug on my waist. Bring my baby to me and place him on my body just like I would carry him in my arms. This panel comes up on his back. These come up, I buckle. Reach in here, make sure he's nice and centered. Dolls don't always behave like real babies do. I'm going to tighten these shoulder straps, but then I'm in. Just a click at my waist belt, a click behind me, and we are good to go. Out and about, as out and about as we can get, or maybe some nice cozy at-home naps, depending on where you are. Baby's hands can go up here. Whoop, there's a plastic doll hands again, doing whatever they want to do. Up here, usually babies like them up by their face, but it's pretty flexible. Babies will usually decide where they want to be in this class of babies. So, like I said, give you as many good cues. And that's how quick and easy this carrier is to put on. Let me talk about the not needing an infant insert and all of that. And I also want to go over some stuff for the chest clip. You notice that I reached back behind me and buckled mine, but there are a couple of different ways that we can do that. So you can make sure that you're always doing it independently, that you don't need someone to help you. Don't be like me and ask random strangers in the parking lot to unbuckle your chest clip. We want to make sure by the end of this hour that you can do all that stuff independently. So let's go over a little bit more. I see some questions. What about the weight limit? Is this washable? So let's go over a little bit more of these features and answer some more of your questions in depth. So I'm going to take this off. And when I do, here's one of the things that you can do to make that chest clip easier. If you loosen these up, loosen this one, you can take this whole thing and just bring it up over your head like that. So leave your clip buckled on the front of you. Take the whole thing up and over, and then you don't have to ask anyone to buckle it for you or unbuckle. Just loosen up those shoulder straps so you have enough space in the straps to get them over your head. Let's take Hamilton down and talk about these. So our carriers are all completely 100% machine washable. You can absolutely throw them in the wash. They come straight out of the box, already nice and soft. But a wash is not a bad idea. Washable feature is not a bad idea for baby products, right? The Free to Grow and Explore, their base model starts in this French twill fabric, which I'm holding up to the camera and smooshing on, like you can really tell the softness through your computer screen. But they're one of the softest carriers out of the box that I have had the pleasure to handle. And as you might tell over here, I like to hang out in carriers. The weight limit for this one, this is the Explore, and it's 7 to 45 pounds. And this one starts at 179. And I say starts at because we have a lot of prints that are base model in stock prints are usually like 3 or 4 that are almost always in stock all the time. Sleepy Dust is usually one of them. But then Tula has these awesome smaller releases very frequently where they release in French twill a whole bunch of different prints. Follow them on social media because they're always coming out with just the most gorgeous prints. And then also they do wrap conversion releases. So they'll take woven wrap fabric, which is usually very soft and floppy and flexible, and they'll put that into a baby carrier instead of the French twill. So lots and lots of different designs and colors. I highly recommend checking out babytula.com for all the different options that are available right now. And if you don't see something that you like right now, hang on, because they'll have things. Leg circulation. Oh, let's talk about that. So let's talk about some of the features, and I think I'm going to get to some of these questions here about padding and leg circulation and ergonomics and all that kind of stuff. Sorry I talk with my hands a lot. I'm just noticing. I have your comments down here, so I see myself on the screen. Let's talk about some of these features from top to bottom. I'm just going to put this over my head to make this just a little bit easier to talk. First off, on the Free to Grow. The Free to Grow is the only carrier of Tula's that faces out. So you'll notice, I said top to bottom, but I'm actually going to skip around. You'll notice that there's some extra buttons on the front of the Free to Grow here, and these allow for the facing out feature. So when your baby's ready, maybe we'll get time to talk about facing out. When your baby's ready, when their chin clears the top of the panel, they have good head and neck control, they can face out, and we're going to change these buttons from the outer buttons to the inner buttons, and that gives your baby some space to get their legs around the side while still keeping them in an ergonomic knees up kind of position. I'll get to what I mean by ergonomic position in just a minute because we'll do another demo in the carrier. The other thing, we'll talk about that in a second. The other thing about this carrier is that it's designed, like I said, for newborn all the way through toddler. And what that means is there are a few features that are newborn specific. One of them is this pillow right here in the front. It's right now in its infant setting. So after newborn, your baby's a little bit older, you flip it out here, but it's still down because your baby's not really tall. Once they are tall, toddler age, you're gonna flip it up. There's some snaps inside of here. You can't really see them because they're covered. They really thought that through. The snaps are inside this little pocket here. So babies can't get at them, they can't irritate baby's face, their cheeks, or what have you. So this can flip up into toddler mode, but in newborn mode, it actually flips inside, which is great for those little babies because there's a little bit of extra space behind their neck, upper back area, and this pillow really does a great job of filling in that gap. The other thing that is a newborn specific feature, I mentioned this carrier doesn't need an infant insert, right? Yeah, so the way they get away with this is right now you can see the panel is pretty wide, right? But there are these snaps on the inside of the panel. Let me unsnap them here. There we go. You can see there's 3 snaps in here. So we'd take this and we'd cinch it down like this on both sides. Let me get it snapped here. Snap, and then I do the same thing on the other side. Unsnap, cinch, snap. And now we have a much smaller panel for our little bitty newborns. So newborns get cinched down, and this pillow, it was out here, gets placed in here, and there are also a little pocket area for the pillow. Tula carriers all come with hoods as well, but the hood, the cool part about the hood is that it's detachable. So I can take this hood and place it back in. There are little loops inside here where the hood goes, and they've actually thought, let me just do one of them because it really illustrates what I'm about to talk about. I can totally get it. There we go. Live video, right? There's always some kind of adventure. Inside here, they've really thought this through because there are two different levels. There's one up here and one down here that I have the hood snapped through. So that as you move this pillow part up, your hood can move up to the next level. So when your baby falls asleep, And they need a little bit of darkness, a little bit of sound suppression, a little bit of extra head support. This hood can go on. Let me just show you over here. I got one of them open. This hood can go on, and it can come up and snap up on your shoulder on both sides. So the hood stays in place nicely while also still allowing that airflow to get to baby, but dampening some of that sound, dampening some of that light. Also really great for breastfeeding too. You can snap both sides, you can snap one. Some friends of mine even like to cross and put one snap over here, so they still get a big, a lot of a good view of baby. There we go. But baby still has all that head support. I'm gonna hydrate real quickly, excuse me. Thank you. So that's how we change it from that newborn, or sorry, from that infant or toddler mode to that newborn mode. So snaps in the waist belt, and this pillow flips in here and snaps on the inside. So let's put it on with a newborn, shall we? So we can see how that works. And then we'll just talk real briefly about some of the differences between the Free-to-Grow and the Explorer, because the Free-to-Grow carrier is really, really similar to the Explorer. Its price point is a little lower though. It starts at $159. The reason for that is that it doesn't face out. It just is facing in and back carries. It does those really critical, that's what you get a baby carrier for in the beginning, right? Is that facing in cozy position. How many pounds can it carry? Up to 45 pounds. And we will briefly, if we have time, we'll just talk about the preschool and toddler options that Tula has as well, and when is a good time to start with those. Okay, so we're in the newborn mode, right? We've got our stuff down here. So let me grab my newborn doll. This is Hazel. That was Hamilton, you saw before. This is Hazel. Same steps for getting the carrier on, right? I've secured my waist belt, and I've made sure to use my safety elastic here. I don't know how easily it is for you to see that. Try to get some contrast here on the wall. But this safety elastic, the buckle has traveled through, and ideally, you bring all that webbing through too, so that if for some reason you knock it on the wall or something, the buckle, the waist belt, stays intact. So I've got Hazel up on my body like I did with Hamilton earlier. If you missed it, just on my body where I would hold her in my arms to begin with. Free-to-Grow and the Explorer are both legs out from birth. So we've got our little knees over here to the side. And you might notice here, all this padding right at the knee is really helpful for being able to lift those knees up. I mentioned some of the ergonomics about baby. Let's get them in this carrier, and then we can talk a little bit more about all of what that means. I'm also going to, again in practice, show you what we did at the very beginning, if you missed that. If you leave your clip, your chest clip buckled, I like to get my arms in each one of these straps. But if you leave your chest clip buckled, and then take the clip and place it over your head, then you don't need to have anybody buckle it behind you. And all you do is tighten up your straps over here. And I'll show you an alternate way of doing that too. If you're like, no, I don't want to go over my head. We'll do another way when we take this carrier off. So I'm just going to go through now and talk about some of those ergonomics that I've been mentioning. First thing is baby's airway. We want to make sure that while they're in the carrier, we can always monitor their airway. So we can look down and see that their chin is up off their chest and they're able to get fresh air the whole time. Usually that's, so you can also see baby, but sometimes not so much. Like right now, you can probably just see maybe a little bit of her ear, but I can see her whole face when I look down. I'd like her just a little bit higher in there. There we go. Sometimes those little newborns are one thing to do to troubleshoot the fit. This starts at 7 pounds. So it does go all the way down to a newborn friendly weight, and no infant insert is required for the Free-to-Grow or for the Explorer, just to repeat that one. Our standard Tula carrier still requires an infant insert. There's no change there. But there's been a couple of new models lately, so they don't require an infant insert because we recognize that's a little bit of extra that not everybody wants, right? They can be bulky and that kind of thing. They're a great addition for getting a little bit of extra use out of your carrier at the beginning, but not everybody wants that bulk. One thing that can happen though with those little bitty babies, and admittedly Hazel is a doll that's a little bit too small for the Free to Grow and the Explorer. This is the Explorer. But one thing that you can do is reach inside here and get a hold of your baby. And then with your other hand, take some of this and just lift it sort of, or not lift it, but push it up in between you and baby just a little bit. And at the same time, I'm taking baby and kind of moving them forward just a tiny bit so that they're taking up a little bit more of that panel space. You always want to make sure after you do that to come back to your shoulder straps. Make sure those are nice and snug so you and baby are moving together as one unit. So I could do a little jig here to get my baby to take a nap. And she's not sloshing around in the carrier. Making sure that okay, yes, we will talk about facing out. Hot stuff, that's a really good question. So if you're in a hot climate, as I know many of you are down in Florida, so many of you are tuning in from the in-person expo that was down there as well. There's a version of all the Tula carriers, the Explorer, the Standard, the Free to Grow, called the Coast version that has a mesh panel right in the middle. It's really nice for keeping baby cooler in those hotter climates. Tula also released a new carrier that I'd love to demo for you here, but you're gonna have to go seek it out on your own because it's so new I don't even have it yet, called the Tula Light. You might be lucky enough to actually win one of these because they are giving away a Tula Light with a bundle that includes a Tula blanket. Let's see, it's the Festive Frolic Tula blanket to be specific, and it's the Light Beyond print that's being given away in a bundle with the Festive Frolic blanket. But it's a really great option for warmer climates as well because the fabric is so lightweight. It isn't mesh, but they've removed a lot of the bulky padding and replaced it with a much more streamlined design. And the fabric itself is this sort of ripstop kind of fabric that's very, very cool. So I would check out both the Coast versions of the carriers and that new Tula Light, and hopefully maybe you'll win one of the Tula Lights for hot weather. More things that I was getting to though for newborn fit is just making sure that yeah, you're moving as one unit with your baby together, and that their airway, that's really the number one thing, is that their airway is always monitored, able to be monitored by you, the person who is wearing the baby. One of the other big things about fit with newborns, I mentioned that we want to keep their knees up, and that we've got this nice padding over at the legs to help influence their knees, to keep their knees up higher than their bottom. That helps their pelvis to tilt toward us. And all of this is adding up to ergonomic positions for your baby to be in for their development, one, but also for their comfort. While they're sitting in the carrier, while they're trying to get cozy and calm down and nestle in, they want to be comfortable, just like you want to be comfortable, right? So I always like to use this analogy of sitting on the edge of a hammock. Imagine yourself, you're sitting on the edge of a hammock, you're on like a beach somewhere, you're in your backyard or on your balcony or in your living room, whatever. If there's a hammock, you swing your legs over to the side of the hammock to get out. And is it an easy exit from that hammock? Especially you guys in Florida. You guys know that it takes a little bit of effort to get out of the hammock, right? You have to engage your core, you have to push your legs down. When you're in that position, seated on the side of the hammock, your knees are way up higher than your bottom. Your pelvis is like tilted forward, like tucked in toward your knees, right? So all of that positioning is a comfortable position. You can hang out in that position like that for a while. Plus, it's difficult to get out of. And that's what we want to go. That's what we're really going for in any carrier that you decide, whether it's one of our structured carriers or the ring sling that I'm going to get to in just a minute here. It's the same theory for all of those positions, right? Knees up higher than bottom, pelvis tilted toward me. And then the other thing to think about is, I mentioned baby's comfort, but also your comfort. That's really, really important. So I've already talked about this chest clip back here. Some people will wear their chest clip up like really high up here because it's a lot easier to get to, right? When it's all the way up there and super high. Just want to make sure. So we're doing, okay. It's a lot easier to get to your chest clip when it's up super high, but it's actually a lot more comfortable for the wearer if it's down a bit more. Like I have it down in a position where it's making like a kind of an H, a capital H position. on my back. Experiment with that because this clip can move up and down. Experiment with where is a comfortable position for you. A lot of times when it's really high, it'll bring the shoulder straps in like this. You'll kind of feel some pinching in your upper back, and the straps will come in at baby's face. And a lot of times babies don't like that, especially once they get out of the newborn time and they want to see around some more before you're ready for facing out, but they really want to see around some more. If this chest strap or chest clip is too low, a lot of times these straps will float on your shoulders and you'll feel some pinching under your arms and that kind of stuff. So experiment to find that money spot, that key spot for you that feels comfortable, because your comfort is a really important part of baby wearing. That's why we work so hard to design these carriers that are not only safe and comfortable for your babies, but super cozy for you as well, because that encourages you to baby wear more, and then you get all the benefits and all that stuff. Heavy weight limit also, yes, it goes up to 45 pounds. This one is 7 to 45 pounds. So is the Free to Grow over here. The only difference between the Explore, let's talk about that for a second, and then we'll do facing out. The only difference really between the Explore here and the Free to Grow over here is $20, and the Explore will do the facing out position. And the Free to Grow is facing in, and it does back carries as well. Yeah, she did all that stuff, the heat stuff with the Coast panel design and the Tula light. Check out the Tula light. Let's talk about facing out. Yeah, when your baby is ready. Oh, before that, I'll show you how to get this carrier off with the other trick that I mentioned. So one thing that I mentioned already for getting these shoulder straps off, or for getting the whole carrier off, if you're all by yourself and you can't reach back there to get that chest clip, you can loosen up the sides and take the whole clip over your head. But if you're like, no, I just got my hair done, or whatever your reasoning is, I don't want to lift it up over my head, here's another way you can do that. Again, loosen up your straps, but this time hold your straps kind of up over your head like this. When you do this, make sure that you're pulling up and back, because we want to make sure that we're keeping baby in that tension of the carrier, right? So they don't have the opportunity to lean away from us. So keep that tension up and back, but just kind of move these until you get, leg down a little bit, until you get behind you, like so. And then before you unbuckle, put a hand on baby, then unbuckle the carrier. And now we're also out, and we didn't have to take anything up over our head. And in reverse, you could do that same thing. Bring these up behind you. Buckle. Hold on to baby, and then let him go. Or take the whole thing off over your head, like so. So in the facing out position, I'm going to adjust this a little bit so we're back to baby Hamilton. Is my slightly bigger baby. So if you missed before, that newborn mode just has that waist belt cinched down. These snaps, I can unsnap and put it back in the wider side. I'm going to get all 3 snaps. Boop, boop, there we go. I'll show you what that looks like inside the waist belt here. See those snaps. See how narrow it got and how much more wide it could get. And then I'll snap these down 1, 2, 3, because Hamilton does sit on the wider seat setting. And there's, they let you know when to move these out. It's also when your baby is sitting in the carrier and the carrier is starting to come up onto their knee. So the carrier usually hits them like right here at their knee cut, right? But you're noticing the sides of the carrier are hitting more like their thighs. It's time to experiment with letting out those snaps to the next setting, because they're probably ready for the more wide seat setting. There's a small, super small for newborns. There's a medium, and there's a all the way wide. Your baby might hit all the way wide before they hit toddler. And we'll talk about toddler carriers too. Okay, so to change from the facing in setting to facing out, let's actually start in facing in, because a lot of folks start this way, right? They're hanging out with their baby, and baby is getting like really wanting to look around and stuff. Do this in practice. There we go. Baby's really wanting to look around and all that. So before loosening up your carrier, taking it off, you can go ahead and move these buttons down in the front. That's what these buttons on the front are for in the Free to Grow, that the Explore, or sorry, I knew I was gonna mess that up. That's what the buttons for the Explore have, that the Free to Grow back here does not. We'll do a quick compare contrast in just a second. There we got those buttons down in the lower position. And that's really important because when we go to take this off here, hey there, Hamilton, and we turn our baby around, go, and we'll load them back in here. We want to make sure that there's obviously space for their legs to get around, that they're not sitting in this really like splayed out. Splayed, is that a word? I think it is. I hope it is because I use it fairly frequently. We don't want their legs to be too far spread. So by moving those buttons down, we allow them some space to get their feet around. I'm going to clip, tighten up. And then once I tighten up, that final step that I kind of did when I was forward facing, or facing in, but didn't quite complete. We'll get the arms out. Right, and there's these little arm openings right here between the top of your shoulder strap and the bottom of your shoulder strap. Great place for the arms to go. You'll notice too that Tula did a great job of strategically placing the padding here as well. So the padding starts up here at your shoulder and allows that open space for babies to get their arm. They really thought of a lot of things when they were designing this carrier. But what I kind of rushed through when baby was facing me was to kind of come back to the seat area and get your hands inside the carrier and really help baby to get their pelvis into the carrier and then their knees to kind of come up a little bit so they still, even facing forward, still have this really ergonomic seat position. So their knees are still up higher than their bottom. Their pelvis still has that tuck to it this way. So yeah, they're still comfortable, and we are still comfortable too. I can tell you from experience that wearing a baby with their knees up like this actually does give a bit of lift to my back than having them with their knees more, or with their legs more down. Does it rub on their thighs? Really good question, Angelina, and that's why it has this extra bit of padding here that other carriers, the Tula Explorer, or sorry, I was going to do that. The Tula Free to Grow does have a little bit of padding here at the sides, the same kind of padding that the standard Tula carriers have, but the Explorer, it's a little bit more around here so that it doesn't rub as much on their thighs. It does create a little bit more of a lift as well. With any baby carrier, especially with newborns, do watch out for that circulation stuff. As we know with newborns, their circulation just isn't super great yet. Sometimes they can get little purple feet. Make sure that you lift, take their little feet and just kind of do a lift here so that their weight isn't sitting on that knee pit, that their weight is really sitting on their bottom and their thighs. And that helps a lot with any rubbing around and circulation issues, especially with those little babies. To face out, we want to make sure Hamilton here is a pretty good facing out model, unlike Hazel, who's not the greatest newborn model. Hamilton's chin is clearing the top of the panel, so his chin isn't rubbing. It's rubbing a little bit today. He could be just a tiny bit higher, but his chin isn't rubbing on the panel. It's not like he's like this, right? No, that's not a fun way to ride. Let's make sure that baby's chin clears the top of the panel and he has good head and neck control. He can support his own airway. I'm not concerned about his head slumping over. If he were to fall asleep, I would do that same movement that I did before. Loosen up my chest clip, unbuckle it, reach around here, pull him out ever so slowly, right? And gently, as to not wake the baby. And I place him back in this way and reclip and be back on our way. Yeah, they have a bunch of cute prints. I really like Kate the triangle design too, because good, Anna. Good. Same questions about putting it on all by yourself. Yep, I had the same issue. And that's the beauty of buckle carriers, is that they can be so quick and streamlined, if you will, to get on, as long as you know those simple tweaks. So again, if you missed it, for all of you that are live, start by loosening up these shoulder straps. That's really the base of it. And then you can either take the whole thing over your head, or you can lift it, here out of the way, lift it. And before I unclip, I'll take my hand back here, clip, and then we're out. So we covered the Free to Grow carrier and its adjustments for newborns. Its adjustments all the way up through toddlers, and the facing out position. Let's do just a quick, I did go over, I guess, the only real differences between the Free to Grow and the Explore are that the Explore, again, has these buttons in front for facing out, that the Free to Grow doesn't have. No buttons on the front over here. They both have these sleepy hoods that are both detachable. They both have a pocket in front over here that is not detachable, it stays on. But I take my sleepy hood off because I'm not a huge fan of sleepy hoods, and I store it inside that pocket there. It's a tiny bit bulky, but that way I don't lose it. It fits my phone. It also fits like a small package of diapers and wipes and my phone, or your keys. It's a pretty great pocket for your keys. The other difference between the Free to Grow and the Explore is that the Explore has this pillow on the front, and that's how the panel size adjusts, right? The Free to Grow is super, super similar. Its panel also gets shorter and taller. It has the same adjustments inside the waist belt, those snaps there. So it gets as narrow for a little newborn as the Explore did. The way the panel adjusts this time, there's no pillow. It has these sliders with webbing. So right now, it's a long panel. It goes up past my, it's up. It's long. It's this long right now. But if I were to manipulate those sliders, oh man, yeah, they've had, Amanda, yes, we're gonna do ring slings next. There've been so many changes in the last few years. It's very, as a baby wearing educator, it's very exciting to see. So there we go, adjusted here. So it kind of folds. See it from the side. There we go. Kind of folds like that. I'll do the other side. Yeah, we're gonna do ring slings next. Yes, they can be on the back too. I think we'll have time for back, Carrie. So there we go. Now our panel is all the way adjusted down, right? And you can see how much smaller it is. It's the same, the waist belt is at the same place that it was when it was taller, but we've gone from the panel being up here on me to the panel all the way down here. So this is the Free to Grow, and really the only difference between Free to Grow and Explore, other than that the Free to Grow doesn't face out, is that it adjusts with these, the panel adjusts with these sliders instead of this pillow. Hopefully that all makes sense. All right, let's talk about ring slings. And then I want to introduce you to our preschool size carrier and talk about the difference between, well, really, when is a good time to start with the preschool size carrier. So this is one of our ring slings, and ring slings can be found on the Baby Tula website, babytula.com, under the signature carriers section, and then go to ring slings, signature ring slings. That's really important. They aren't under the regular carriers drop down because ring slings are special. Ring slings are all converted from different woven wrap fabrics. So I mentioned before, like with the Free to Grow and the Explore and the regular carriers, they come in these options that are these stock prints, right, that you can almost always find on their website in stock. But then they have some that are special prints, like, oh, yes. Well, no. They have some that are, that's a canvas. It's a little bit different. You'll see it in a minute. They have some that are special prints. And then they have ring slings, which are converted from woven wraps, like some of the signature baby carriers, like the Explore and Free to Grow. Some of those are also made with woven wraps. So Tula's really, Baby Tula's website especially, but their groups on social media, their social media on Instagram and other places are really fun places to hang out if you're into all the pretty fabrics, because they're always showing up with new stuff. Both in this, this is brush twill. I think I call it French twill, brush twill. It's a very soft twill fabric for the Explorer and Free to Grow. But then the ring slings and the wrap conversion signature carriers are even more soft and even more floppy. This one I got a few years ago. The print is called Megaloo Delight. But the thing about the wrap conversion carriers and the thing about everything under the signature carrier section of babytula.com is that they're all special. They're all small batch releases. So that's why I say, like, hang out there if you're really interested in finding all this pretty stuff. Because every time I go to check out the ring slings before one of these events, there are different colors and styles in there. They all have a gathered shoulder. All of the function or the features are all the same. They all have these aluminum rings that are two continuous pieces. Each one is one continuous piece. And they're all used the same. So they'll come threaded. There is a seam above these two rings. So the rings are sewn into the fabric. So what I do is I grab hold of that seam so that the rings are facing out this way. I take my elbow in, on my head, and then the seam is now up on my shoulder with the rings out in front and this tail part hanging down. So if you can do all of that, you're well on your way. Like, that I feel like is one of the most complicated parts about getting on the ring sling. Then let's do it kind of quickly, just like we did with the soft structure carrier. We'll show you the simple part of it, but then we'll break it down a little bit more. Baby's legs come through, place them on your body where you want them to be. Top edge comes up, nice and smooth. Make like a little seat here. It's not like a structure carrier, right? So you got to move the fabric to where you want it to be. There we go. Then this top edge, you take all the slack out of here, a little bit from the middle. I don't need too much. And from the bottom edge, I'm really not going to tighten that very much at all, just a little bit. So there's not a lot of slack here. But a lot of people will want to tighten that bottom edge a whole bunch, but it's actually not what is keeping baby in the sling. What's keeping baby in the sling is this middle part here and this top part here. The bottom edge really isn't doing a lot of work. In fact, when we over tighten the bottom edge, we make baby's legs kind of come together like this more and more, and it ruins that like hammock-like position like we talked about with the soft structure carrier. It looks like way more like a hammock now, right? You can really see baby's knees up higher than their bottom. Their bottom is really in this fabric here. And they can't just hop right out. They have to kind of come through me, right? I mean, think about yourself on the edge of a hammock and trying to get out of a hammock. You got to push your legs down. You got to engage your core. You got to propel yourself forward. And those are things that this baby simply can't do. One, because he's plastic, but two, with your real babies, they can't push themselves through their body. They can straighten their legs, but you are right here to make sure that that fabric stays out to their knees, that their knees keep up above their bum, and all that kind of stuff. So a ring sling starts at 8 pounds and goes up to 35 pounds. So these are also pretty much newborn to toddler ready. One thing that's a little bit different, that can be a little bit different for a newborn, let's talk about that while let's get Hamilton out here. So I lift it up on my rings and move that top edge down, and we can get Hamilton right out. A couple of things that I'll do for newborns. One, newborns usually don't like a lot of extra jostling around in the carrier, right? They just like get it on and be set. So instead of having like a whole bunch of extra here, like I could fit a whole adult in here, I'll take it down and put my elbow in here, use my elbow as a placeholder, and not completely tighten around it, but just enough so that I don't have a ton of extra fabric going on, right? I want to make sure that it isn't twisted anywhere. I'll kind of do like a twist check thing here. A twist isn't going to bother baby, but it'll create a pressure point. For some people, it creates a pressure point on the back that some people don't like. And the last thing, a quick tip for doing, it's optional, but if you are struggling with like tightening through your ring sling, it could be, and this doesn't really look, I'm trying to have a teaching moment here, and it's actually pleated out really, really nicely, but sometimes the fabric just gets kind of folded over on itself, it makes it hard to tighten. So if you find one of those ends, there it is, find an end, And kind of take your fingers all the way through the width of fabric to the other side. Hopefully that's clear and not fuzzy. There we go. So we can see all that width pleated out like that. It makes it so much easier to pull that fabric through so it's not folded over on itself and creating some resistance. The cool thing about ring slings is once you get baby in and there's that weight in the sling, it locks these rings in together and prevents a lot of movement. So if the fabric is at all bunched over on itself, all that weight here can make things kind of difficult. You can also, though, lift your baby's bottom a little bit to take some of the pressure off the rings. That can also make it a little bit easier to tighten. Ring slings are also very much washable. Even the woven and all that stuff. The ring slings. Yeah, the signature section of Baby Tula, Angelina, the signature section of babytula.com is all that like woven stuff. So one big thing that's different between ring slings and the structured carriers is that all of the structured carriers are designed to have baby with their legs out. But not all newborns are ready for that or are down for that. Not all newborns are like super excited to get into a different kind of position. What I mean by that, actually, let's turn Hazel around. Every baby is going to sit in the sling, you know, like this. Some babies are okay with taking their legs out for a little bit and then they get back into this position. Some babies are like, nope, I just want to stay like super legs in, super in my little ball of baby, and I don't want to move my legs away from my body. So you'd get them up like so, you know, get classic arms around, and you'd be like, hey, okay, time to move your legs down. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it. In a ring sling, we can handle that. It's harder in a soft structured carrier, so I'd probably just wait to use your soft structured carrier. Go for a stretchy wrap or a ring sling. But in a ring sling, we can handle that really well. You're just going to take that ball of baby, and you might notice Hazel is pretty much just folded in half because, like I said, she's not a super great squishy baby model. But you take that ball of baby that you have, and instead of reaching through and grabbing their legs and kind of pulling them down this way, you just take baby and put them on your body, where you hold them in your arms without a carrier at all. Kind of like we did with the soft structure carrier, right? That loop of fabric is down here for now. Take as long as you need in this position. Some babies are like, we need a little bit of time here in this position to just hang out. Oh, let me get to that. So from here, same thing that we did with the legs out position. I'll find that fabric, that top edge of fabric. I find it easier to find under my arms. Bring it nice and smooth up baby's back. And this time, instead of that fabric coming out to baby's knees, we're just going to make it nice and secure right down there so that baby's bottom is sitting here in this part of their fabric. And the fabric isn't really touching their knees, or sorry, their feet. It's not touching their knees because their knees are all the way up here. It's not touching their feet at all. This extra slack that we've got here, we need to tighten that up. We're gonna bring that around to the rings. Give it a nice little snug. You could pull it down if you wanted to, but I actually find it, the rings don't go down as far south if I pull it this way. That middle part, I'm gonna make sure that that's secure too. And then that bottom edge, I just don't want some slack there because it's the middle part that's holding on to their weight that's here resting on their bottom. We just want to make sure that anytime we're legs in a ring sling or a stretchy wrap, that all of baby's weight is really sitting on their bottom and that the carrier isn't touching their feet. Babies have that reflex where you push on their feet and they push back. We don't want them to like push into your chin or something. It doesn't feel good. Ask me how I know. So different positions for the ring sling. This is a really good question. In the last several years, it's been the vertical position that has been prioritized over any other because it's so much easier to monitor baby's airway to make sure that their chin stays off their chest in this position. So that's the position, our default position that we tend to teach. If you're looking for something else, I would highly recommend you reach out to a baby wearing educator near you, or now one that does virtual sessions. I'm one of those. My name is Amy Rainbow. Find someone, there's a website that's called babywearinghelp.org, and you can find people that are in your area or people that do virtual appointments to get you some help with exploring alternate positions, because there are other things that you can do. They're just pretty specific to the person wearing the baby and to the baby themselves. This vertical position is just a whole lot more mainstream and easy for us to teach for everybody. Yes, Heather, this is a great question about plus sizes. Yes, all of our carriers do fit plus sizes, including the ring sling. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of extra fabric left over here. So yes, while I am not plus size myself, I have worked with a lot of people who are at our shows that I was able to attend before 2020 in person. And it's always, people oftentimes will like bet me that, you know, I can't fit that carrier, but you can. You can fit the carrier. You don't need an extender or anything with Tula carriers. They are very size inclusive. The giveaways, I'll recap. So there are two giveaways. One is a bundle. It's the Tula Light carrier, which is our brand new carrier. It goes from 12 to 30 pounds, and it's like a hip pouch that is disguised, like a carrier can disguise inside of it. So it's great for those babies that are up and down. It's that Tula Light carrier in the Beyond print with a festive frolic Tula blanket. That is one of the bundles. And then the other giveaway is for a free to grow in the Mason print, which is very beautiful, beautiful print. So those are two options. We did babies with feet out in the ring sling. If you missed it before, there's a recap of these videos on YouTube too. So you can see videos that we've done from Tula, from other expos as well. We did feet in the ring sling. I want to talk really quickly about our preschool carrier, or sorry, our toddler carrier and a back carry, because I saw that there were a couple of back carry questions. To recap the ring sling as I take it off and lift and pull down, the ring sling is 8 to 35 pounds, and they are $79 on the Baby Tula site. There's also that code, PREGO30, that gets you 30% off those regular price items on the Baby Tula site, which I think that they'll be sending out at the end of the expo with all of the giveaway information as well. Let's see. The weight limit, 79. The weight limits for the Explorer and the Free to Grow are 7 to 45 pounds. The Free to Grow starts at 179, and the Explorer starts at 159. No, wait, nope, I split that again. I'm sorry. Scratch that. The Explorer, because that's the one that faces out, starts at 179. The Free to Grow, which does not face out, starts at 159. There we go. I said it right this time. And like I said before, everything is machine washable. So as all baby items should absolutely be machine washable. This one is our toddler size carrier. So the panel is so much bigger. I can do a quick little comparison. So much bigger from our standard. There we go. Well, anyway, it's a couple inches bigger. Then the standard carrier, and then the Free to Grow carrier, and the Explorer carrier, it starts at 25 pounds. So we usually recommend that baby is in a 2T size pant before you begin to consider a toddler size carrier. I know a lot of people are like, well, I have a 25-pound 6-month-old. Should I go ahead and size up to a toddler? No, not necessarily, because it's so wide that it's not just the weight on these carriers. There we go. It's not just the weight on these carriers. It's also baby's height as well. Same sort of thing for like the facing out milestone as well, which is why we really try to focus more on baby's chin clears the top of the panel and they can support their own airway. So you can see I have a much bigger doll on me now, and we have a much bigger, I call it the knee span. The measurement, the width measurement, I'm trying to say 2 words at the same time, between one of baby's knees and the other one, just kind of getting us centered there. So let's do a quick back carry. This is one of my favorite ways to do a back carry. When you start back carrying, do make sure that your baby is sitting unassisted. In a Tula, that is one of the milestones that we're looking for. Tula is big on being able to use their toddler and preschool carriers for special needs situations as well. I would highly recommend reaching out to Tula or reaching out to a baby wearing consultant for learning more about babies, more about back carrying with babies that haven't yet met that sitting unassisted milestone, but size-wise are ready to go for back carries. But for most people, we're looking for babies that are sitting unassisted for a back carry. So to get into a back carry, I started in a front carry, and I just pretend like my plastic baby has fallen asleep. So I'm gonna loosen up my shoulder straps. Get your hand out of the way, Hamilton. Like many things that we've done today, it starts with loosening up my shoulder straps. And then what I'm gonna do, I also, that's the other disclaimer, I'm an experienced baby wearer, experienced at back carries, and this is a plastic child. If this was my first time and this was a real baby, I would be practicing with a spotter. I'd be practicing over a soft surface, use a mirror until you get fully comfortable. So here's what we do. We've got 1 minute. Take one arm, and it's gonna go over the shoulder strap, like so. The other arm goes under the shoulder strap, like so. So you've got one shoulder strap that's totally over your arm, and one that's totally under. And I'm gonna spin baby this way. I grab onto baby, grab onto my waist belt, there it is, and scoot, scoot, scoot baby around until like my arm is about to fall off. Then I take this other arm, support baby. This arm can come around, supports baby again. So our arm is on baby the whole time, as well as the carrier supporting them, as well as my body being tipped forward. So we've got a lot of things going for us here. Get us finally centered, so I'm feeling good. And then I can get that shoulder or that arm, both arms, back into those shoulder straps. Retighten. Whew. And there we go. We're in our back carry. I will stick around for a little while and answer some of the questions in the comments, but thank you so much for those of you who have hung out with me and did some baby wearing today. It's really fun to be able to talk to you all, even virtually, about all this stuff. The coupon code is PREGO30. The giveaways are that Tula Light and blanket bundle, plus a free to grow in the Mason print. Hang out with Baby Tula on social media. Their Instagram is one of my favorite accounts to follow. You can find me on Instagram too. My name is Amy Wraps Babies. I don't just do wraps. I do lots of stuff. So thanks so much for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of the expo, and I'll hang out in the comments in a little bit to answer your questions. Bye.